Yo, what's up guys? Yeah, PokeaimMD here with the finals of the Smogon Premier League. Now, I don't have every game because I think currently there's just a few games left that will determine who wins the Smogon Premier League, but we do have 4 games here that we'll be commentating, and then hopefully later on tonight I can get the rest of the games since everything will be completed today. Although I'll be handling mainly the singles ones and the upper gens. So I think the ones I don't have here are, well, you guys will see. I'll talk about it at the end anyway. But of course, it is Sunday. Happy Easter, by the way. We want to start off with DPP, 4 DPP Sundays, and yeah, we have Roscoe on one side versus Void. 2 pretty competent DPP players, 2 friends as well. Let's just look at team preview. Automatically, we see a Rose Raid lead from Void. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Rose Raid lead in DPP because since it's DPP, you never know what your opponent has in the back, and Roscoe could easily have a Rose Raid of his own and just absorb the T-Spikes, and Rose Raid would basically be useless. But if we do see that Rose Raid, we do see that Void's team is more than likely hard carried by T-Spikes, and with that I mean that you might see something like Calm Mind Jirachi, Calm Mind Raikou in the back will protect, Subtran is a good option as well, Taunt Gliscor is really nice with T-Spikes as well, so those are all options we might see in the back. Whereas Roscoe has an Azelf, so we don't know anything about Roscoe's scheme just because Azelf could be a Focus Sash lead, could be a Cobra Berry lead, could be Choice Scarf, could be Choice Ban, and that literally, that usually means that offense is being ran or some sort of hard, bulky offense or something like that. But outside of that, we don't have much information. Oh yeah, before I mention, there's only 19 hours left to pick up a pair of Drop of Draco socks. So basically, this is probably your last day to pick them up if you guys want to. But let's get into this game real quick. So we see Rose Raid lead versus Azelf. Rose Raid could be Scarf or Focus Sash. Either way, a Leaf Storm is pretty smart from Void's part, as it will break. It will either knock out an Azelf that's not bulky, or break a potential Focus Sash or anything like that, and avoid a taunt from Azelf. So we do see a U-turn from Azelf turn 1, and we do see a Focus Sash on Rose Raid. That's more than likely banded Azelf, though we do see a crit, so it could be Scarf as well. But goes on to Jirachi, which was a smart play because Void more than likely would not Sleep Powder since Taunt was an option, as he did Leaf Storm, and he's able to U-turn out into his Tyranitar. Now, like I said, we do see leftovers on his T-Tar, so it's more than likely support one. Excuse me, on this Heat Rain, it could be a sub one, anything like that. But Void makes the really aggressive play and decides to go right for the taunt. Really smart. I think that a crit from from Azelf, if it was a defensive variant, like a Cobra Berry set, doesn't pop or bring Rose Raid down to its Sash. Keep in mind, crits do 2 times the damage in this generation, but I don't think that a bulky Azelf with Cobra Berry, which doesn't run any attack investment, a crit would bring Rose Raid down to its Sash. So it more than likely was a banded Azelf or potentially a Scarf attack investment. But Void makes a really nice play, goes for taunt right here as Tyranitar tries to get up to the rocks. Really, really aggressive, but you know, it's finals of a tournament. You want to make plays like that, as Roscoe is going to double out into a Starmie, which covered the rocks play as well as any switching. And we do see a Hydro Pump coming off on the Swampert, and we see an unfortunate crit for Roscoe right there, as Earthquake would not have been able to knock him out, and maybe damage on the Swampert could have mattered for potentially Jirachi in the back. But Breloom's going to come out, just going to throw off a Spore as Rose Raid comes in. That doesn't really matter though, because Sand is going to pick it off. However, it does give him a free switch into Heat Rain, which threatens the Breloom with the Fire Blast. So Trend does end up going for Magma Storm. Magma Storm taunt, smart. It lets you wear down Starmie as well, as Tyranitar is just going to go for the rocks this turn as Swampert comes in. Probably just going to go for its own rocks, yeah. So we see Breloom in again. Pretty interesting situation considering Void. I'm not sure how he wants to deal with what he wants to sleep. I'm just giving you I've watched the game, but I'm giving you my analysis as if I was playing the game myself, because you know, as DPP Sundays 1 and 2, Breloom is a tricky Pokemon, right? I'm sure he has a dedicated sleep fodder in the squad, but as of right now, Swampert and Heatran are both useful being alive. Swampert walls Scarf Jirachi, which it more than likely is, and it walls Tyranitar, whereas Heatran also walls the top 3 outside of, you know, Earthquake from T-Tar and Boom from Azelf, but it also just threatens them with Magma Storm, just chipping away turn per turn. T-Slug actually would have been pretty nice here, but so we see Breloom come out again, and this is potentially a free Spore for Roscoe. We don't necessarily know what Void has, but of course he's going to first Seed Bomb You know, he's an old school DPP player. Back when people used to actually leave in their Swampers versus Braylon for Spore. But we do see Gengar ends up going put to sleep. I kind of agree with that play because Scarf Jirachi, Azov is faster, and Tyranitar you have to hit a Focus Blast anyway. So I actually agree with that play that he let Gengar go to sleep, especially because he has a decent answer to this Braylon in Jirachi. So we see a double out into T-Tar right now. That would work if Gengar wanted to come in, or stay in rather, but we do see Jirachi come out as it goes for Protect as Azov comes out. So this means that Azov cannot go for Choice Band Explosion if it wants to, or if it does have Choice Band Explosion, not Choice Scarf. But we see a U-turn come out from the Azov as Void ends up going out to Heat Rim, which allows him to bring his Tyranitar. But chipping away that T-Tar is really nice, especially because we saw Protect on Jirachi. So that could either be Wish, Protect, Body Slam Iron Head variant, or it could be a Calm Mind variant, which also abuses the T-Spike relatively well. But we see Flagon come out on the Earthquake as Roscoe pulled a double out into Braylon to probably cover the Swampert switching. That was still a smart play anyway. Allows him to get in Braylon and go for Superpower, throwing off on on Flagon, as Void ended up going Gengar. We do see a really nice play on Roscoe's part, double Superpower, expecting the Jirachi to want to come out. Gengar, if it stayed in, that's some beautiful damage on Jirachi, by the way. Gengar, if it stayed in, there was a likelihood that it could be Pursuit Trap by Tyranitar. So Jirachi comes out as we see a Thunderbolt come out. So we do see a Thunderbolt and we see Protect. So this is more than likely a Wish Calm Mind Mono Thunderbolt set, I want to say, maybe. Or just Calm Mind Protect, similar to Raikou. And again, I say similar to Raikou because Raikou runs, or one set that Raikou runs is Calm Mind, HP Ice, Thunderbolt, Protect to wear down with T-Spikes. So it could be potentially Calm Mind, 2 attacks, Protect Jirachi as well, which again makes sense with T-Spikes. So Tyranitar comes out, going over for Crunch, as Heat Rain does reveal Protect as well. Really nice, again, hard abuses those T-Spikes, and this does allow him Azov to come in if it wants to go for Ice Beam. Azov will eat it anyway, and does threaten Swampert with Explosion or anything like that, but throws off his headbutt as Swampert does get flinched, pretty big right there, as it does allow him to keep his Azov and also just potentially just 1v1 the Swampert, which is not going to be doing too much. Though Void opts to keep it alive and go right out to Jirachi. I can respect that play. Jirachi takes absolutely nothing from that Zen Headbutt, by the way. It took nothing from that Zen Headbutt. And we do see the Protect come out. So right here, we actually do see the Calm Mind. So I'm more than likely thinking that it is Calm Mind, Protect, Psychic T-Bolt. I really think that it is its set and not Wish. So again, just hard abusing those T-Spikes. Protect is really nice on Void's part too because it really does ease predictions. You guys can see, like, he's just able to see exactly what Roscoe goes for as he goes for Trick. And in this generation, if you do Trick, you're not able to go for another move. You have to stay in with Trick. So you're locked in a Trick. Basically, that means Flagon can come in, just go for a safe U-turn, and get in Jirachi right here. Jirachi is out of range of the Mach Punch from Braylon, and he can potentially throw off a Psychic right now if it wants to. So Roscoe does expect that Psychic and goes out into the Jirachi, which does eat it, and this does give him the potential Fire Punch as he doubles out the Tyranitar on the more than likely Protect. So if he does have Pursuit and either gets a crit, or more than likely he's a crit on Jirachi, if he does have Pursuit, this means that Roscoe can potentially get rid of this Jirachi if he does switch out, but he doesn't need, like, Adamant Max Attack to even do any damage. I don't even think it does, but Void is going to opt to sack his Swampert. That way it gives him his Flagon. At that point, Brillium's so low, he could potentially Earthquake, but it just makes a safe U-turn play, knowing that Brillium isn't as much of a threat now that is, like I said, that low anyway, and you don't want to really risk your Flagon. As Roscoe does reveal the last Mon Zapdos. Now this is actually a problem too. This is Agility Zapdos. It can potentially sweep. Jirachi's in range, Gengar's in range, Flagon dies to HP Ice, but we do see the wake up right there from Gengar, really clutch wake up, as he's able to taunt the Zapdos, pretty much stopping it from doing absolutely anything. He's just Shadow Ball to weaken it. This is only Earthquake immunity that he has left. Thunderbolt going to be able to take him out, and I think what he could do now is either go Flagon or Heat Rain if he wants to risk missing. Flagon's probably the better play because Outrage, everything is in range of it, and Roscoe knows that he has to lock himself in Outrage, so he sacks Tyranitar, but that's good and bad. Now that's good because obviously he has his Zapdos still alive and is immune to Earthquake, but it's bad because Flagon's not locked into Outrage since it didn't have a target. So that means that Flagon can potentially switch out if it wants to, and this gives him Heat Rain as a switch in. And Heat Rain covers every double that Roscoe can make, whether it be into Breloom or or Zapdos, as long as it does connect. So we do see the Ice Punch. This means that Jirachi can come back in, Roscoe throws off another Ice Punch, and actually ends up getting a freeze on the Jirachi coming in. So Void not wanting to let Roscoe take advantage of that and potentially getting Braylon or Zapdos to agility up and lose, doubles out into Heat Ram. Really smart play, as Heat Ram gets frozen as well, but thaws instantly and manages to connect the Magma Storm right there. So again, it's really going to be close right here. Zapdos has to dodge a lot of attacks and get off an agility, but that's not the case. Void is fast, so if it's Heat Rent, does land the Magma Storm, and at that point, it's going to come down to hitting the Magma Storm, but Roscoe actually ends up getting a crit, which I think is kind of important because it means that he is in range of the Outrage from Flygon. So I think what Roscoe had to do there was go off a Magma Storm miss and try and spore him and hope that Void did not go for taunt. And then what that would have done was it might have given him enough recovery with Toxic Orb turns to actually get out of range of Flygon's attack. At the same time, though, he also needed Jirachi to stay frozen. But if that was the case, then Seed Bomb into Mach Punch would have knocked out Flygon. And potentially Roscoe could have won right there. But that was still a really solid game. Happy I got to catch that. But really nice DPP game. Void ends up winning versus Roscoe again. Really solid. So next up we have NU game. No, RU, excuse me. I wanted to do NU first. Let me do NU. I'm trying to do them in order. Last one's UE. Yep. Okay, so we have Rodri versus Zugu. And looking at team preview, Venusaur gives Zugu problems. Obviously, he does have offensive ways of dealing with it, which would be Delphox and Vanillix, but Venusaur does get a free sleep powder versus him and matches up well versus the majority of his team. It looks like he has Scyther, which is maybe Scarf or a Violet. I'm thinking more so Scarf or Ban. Those are options. And with Rotom, and Rotom is a really solid defogger, especially with Cobra Berry and whatnot. And also is really nice in this because it does stop close combat from Passimian. Honestly, I think Passimian is doing the least amount of work in this game. You have a Ghost type, a Flying Bug type, and a Poison type. Auto-resisted stab. Knockoff is a little bit annoying, but I mean, even Blastoise needs a hit. So let's see how this game goes. Rhydon lead versus Venusaur. Raju's automatically in a great position. This gives him control of the board. Can throw off a sleep powder on the Silvally coming in. Silvally Steel, which does give Piloswine a switch in as he doubles out into Passimian. So really nice double. That Passimian double dealt with Piloswine, which was more than likely coming out, or even Incineroar. Even though he would have got Intimidate, still damage on Incineroar is really smart because Delphox is potentially a problem versus Raju's team depending on the set, but Incineroar being healthy deals with that. So goes back out into his Rotom. I think this was a smart, a safe play, just because this Rotom is more than likely Cobra Berry anyway. It could be Papa Berry too, but that would actually mean that this knockoff would hurt from Passimian. But we do see Rotom come out, and this allows him to throw off a Volt Switch. But he only went for Volt Switch because he does have Will-O-Wisp right here, and I think he didn't want him going Delphox right there. So this does allow him to burn the Rhydon, and we do see Defog. So again, it's a solid Defogger, and if it does have Will-O-Wisp plus Defog, it more than likely gets Hex as his last move. And weakening Rhydon is super important too, because again, Scyther goes in versus him. Offensively, it goes in versus his offensive Pokemon, which are Vanillix, Passimian, and Delphox. Obviously, he has Silvally Steel, Rhydon, and Slowbro to otherwise eat it. Slowbro being a check at best if it is Choice Band or even SD Scyther. But we do see a Hex come out as Vanillix comes out. Rotom not wanting to take a potential Scarf. Blizzard switches out to Passimian because Rotom is his close combat immunity, and we do, switches out to Piloswine because that is his close combat immunity, and we do see Vanillix actually pack the taunt. So that was really nice because that stops Piloswine from getting rocks, but Raji pulls a nice switch on his own because it covered the Slowbro switch was his best switching, I think, to Piloswine as well, as Vanillix would not be doing anything with Blizzard anyway. The Flash Cannon still wouldn't do crap to Incineroar. So it was a good switch because it dealt with Vanillix and also what he could switch out into. And this does give Incineroar potentially a knockoff or U-turn. U-turn is a smarter play though, as Passimian is going to come out. Gets him his Scyther right here. And Scyther can end up going for Aerialist if it wants to, or a U-turn itself. Based on that damage, more than likely Scarf. But that allows him to U-turn out into Rotom and just weaken and get rid of the Rhydon. We do see an unfortunate crit. It would have been 2-hit KO'd with the burn. And at this point, I'm pretty sure Zuko is just going to go for the Stealth Rock play till he dies. As Rogers decides to go for his smartest play, which is defogging, because since Rhydon's going to die anyway, why not? But allows him to get in Delphox right here. He's going to switch out to Blastoise on the Delphox. This will be able to take 2 Psychics anyway, or any attack, as Zuko ends up going for the Calm Mind and reveals the Grass Knot, which Blastoise ends up tanking and can go right for Rapid Spin. So there will be no rocks on Raju's side this entire game, and this also potentially gives him Incineroar as a switch in. So Zuko, expecting the Incineroar switch, goes for Dazzling Gleam. Does absolutely nothing to Incineroar at all, and this does allow him to fire off a free knockoff, which will be able to deal with Delphox, but also cover any switch in. So really nice play, forcing out the Delphox and getting rid of rocks. And we know that this Scyther is more than likely Scarf, just based on damage from earlier, so it does nothing to Blastoise, but it does nothing to Slowbro, but it does allow him to bring in Blastoise. I'm sorry that I'm like mixing up my words. I'm like trying to talk about both the Pokemon at the same time, but Blastoise living that was really solid, because it means that he does get off a Toxic here, and Zuko obviously not wanting Slowbro to get Toxic, as it is more than likely his win con at this point, since the Calm Mind boosted Slowbro can knock out Incineroar with Scald. If it is a Z move, it doesn't go down to knockoff. Can actually beat Venusaur 1v1 if it gets enough boost, but Zuko not wanting him to get up rocks, goes for Taunt right there. However, Raju's just able to throw off an Earthquake after catching Slowbro upon switching and just getting him Blastoise on the potential slack off. So once again, like with Hail ending, Blastoise gets recovery, and Raju actually makes a really nice double, expecting the Venus to want to come out right there. I think it also dealt with pretty much every double he can make into Blastoise, which would be this or Silvally Steel, which was asleep. So Rotom can come out. We know that Venus is not actually Scarf, which means that Rotom does outspeed it, and Hex is going to be able to knock him out. So really, really nice double on Raju's part. Very, very nice double. Delphox comes out. He's going to double out to Passimian, expecting the Incineroar to come out. Even though he does make that double, the Hail is still chipping away at Passimian, and he gets Intimidated off. And this doesn't mean he can go right back down to Scyther, as Zuko makes a really nice aggressive play. Goes for the knockoff, trying to catch either Rotom or Scyther upon switching, as this, the Choice Scarf is knocked off, which actually makes it a little bit easier, because now this Scyther doesn't even have to predict. It's faster than everything, and can just Aerial Ace and U-turn respectively as he goes Slowbro. And this does give Rotom a switch-in. Goes for Volt Switch, which is crap. It's absolutely nothing. It is defensive Rotom, as the Slowbro is going to make a very, very, very solid play and throw off a Shattered Psyche right there, knocking out Venusaur. So that was a really nice play. Venusaur would have been able to deal with if he went for Scald, Hydro Vortex, even would have taken a regular Psyche, but Shattered Psyche just destroys him, as Rotom can come right back out and goes for the Volt Switch on the Silvally Steel. Allows him to get a Pilot Sponge. At that range, Pilot Sponge is actually not going to be KO'd by a multi-attack or anything, so a multi-type attack, whatever it's called. So he goes right back out into Blastoise on the Calm Mind, and again, at that point, whenever he brings in Blastoise, it's really not only giving him leftovers recovery so he can eat a hit from Slowbro, but also just forcing out Slowbro with Toxic. So it might come down to a potential Toxic miss, but this does allow the Rotom to come in on Silvally, and it looks like Silvally ends up getting the maximum amount of sleep turns right there. So that means the rocks are here to stay. Silvally is gone, so no flying resist from Scyther. Obstacle right back out into Incineroar on the incoming Delphox, as at that point I think he's just trying to set up for the Slowbro sweep. But we do see an Papa Berry, and we do see an Earthquake come out. Really nice play, because it also covered the Passimian switch in. Not that it would knock it out, but it did enough damage to him, and he could just go right out into Scyther on the Passimian. Passimian more than likely doesn't have an attack to hit him anyway, and this does allow him to, once again, because the Scyther is knocked off, go for the safest play, which is Aerial Ace and a U-turn. He's still getting chip damage off. He can still potentially bring in his Blastoise if he wants to, which is really nice there. Zuko does throw off a Side Shock, and at this point, he kind of has to go off a Toxic Miss, which he does get right there, and also gets a Slack Off, which means that he can come in on Scyther. So really nice. I mean, I think that was his best play, attempting to dodge Toxic and getting the Slack Off. That way he can actually live attacks from the incoming Pokemon. But one more time, Raju's just going to make the safest play, which is saving his Blastoise, and covers whatever Passimian can do. And he could just sack Paliswan right here if he wants to, because if he goes for close combat, then he gets in the Rotom, but goes right back out into Blastoise, which gets crit. So Zuko is getting what he needs, but now he needs to dodge a Toxic, as he does not. And because he does have that Toxic, that means that Rotom can just come out and spam Hex if it wants to, or Incineroar can even go for, he can even go for Volt Switch. Like, he actually doesn't even have to go for Hex right there. But because it wouldn't matter, since Slowbro couldn't recover enough damage anyway. But Slowbro comes back in with his Toxic. This Hex is a lot stronger. It ends up just knocking out, I didn't realize how much Hex did to Slowbro, and the Hex was always his best play. Ends up knocking out Rotom, and Rodri ends up winning. So I think that was a really good game. Nice offensive pressure from Rodri. The Incineroar was really clutch. The Incineroar was like the best part. The Papa Berry one, it took absolutely nothing from Delphox as well. And yeah, just really nice prep. So good game to both sides, definitely. So next up we have my boy Soul Gazer versus Gingy. Now, Team preview. We do see double Tyrantrum. Could be just Scarf. Scarf is an option. Noivern could be Life Orb, could be Specs. Dog, usually banded. Dog is actually a threat, but at the same time, he does have Jellicent, which will eat a hit, and can Will-O-Wisp. Shaman, which obviously resists it. Roserade is scary if it's Hidden Power Fire Technician. It actually like really matches up well. I do like both of their builds though. Nice both balance on each side. Bulky offense more so. That's probably a better way of calling it. But Jellicent does block spin from Blastoise, though Blastoise has Dark Pulse because it's Mega Blastoise in this tier, not regular Blastoise. Probably Cobra Berry Jellicent. And yeah, he's been liking that Psywave Toxic Bronzong a lot, which is just really good anyway. So his own Bronzong is really nice just for the Dragon and resistance. But yeah, Noivern looking like a threat. Noivern's definitely looking a threat. And Shaman's looking like a big threat too, considering yeah, he does have this and this to resist, but they don't come in repeatedly on it. Only Bronzong does, and he has ways of dealing with Bronzong, potentially Pursuit Trap, Will-O-Wisping. Even his own Bronzong doesn't lose to Bronzong 1v1. So let's see how this game goes. We do see a Blastoise lead versus Bronzong. Really smart because automatically that gives him some offensive pressure. Gingy actually predicts the Toxicroak double and goes out into his Bronzong. So really nice play, but it does allow him to get in his Drapion right now on the Stealth Rock. So Drapion is a threat, and he goes for Protect right now on the Swordsman. So I think he was scouting for either Bend and Knockoff or Scarf Pursuit or anything like that, but he gets an SD up, and this is a really, this automatically puts Gingy in a defensive position because this is a +2 +2 Drapion, and Gingy is forced to sack something. He actually opts to sack Bronzong, which means switching into Shaman is that much harder for him. So +2 goes out to Dog. This Drapion actually ends up being Shuckaberry SD, so he gets a 2-for-1 right there, and he's able to knock out the banded Zydog as well, which would have been a problem. So Bronzong and Zygarde automatically down. Noivern is going to come out, goes for a Flamethrower, which was probably his best play because it knocked out Drapion, and it also covers the Bronzong switching. And really nice taunt going off on his part, but at that point, Soulgazer just opts to throw off a Scald. Covered any switching could potentially burn him, as he does get the burn on Noivern. And if he does have Hex, this could do a lot too, but I doubt he's Hex when he's Scald. Typically it would be like Will-O-Wisp Hex if anything. Taunt and recover. So I think he's just trying to wear down the Noivern to the point of maybe Scarf Shaman, or even potentially Tyrantrum coming in and just clicking Head Smash, since he doesn't appreciate that at all. So we do see the what is more than likely Scarf Tyrantrum, otherwise you would not bring it on Noivern. Goes for Head Smash as he misses the own Tyrantrum. That would have done a ton anyway. And Gingy just makes the aggressive play of predicting Bronzor right there and going out into Mega Blastoise. Now, I mean, he has to. He's in the back. He's already down 2 Pokemon. Doubles out into Noivern on the Toxicroak switching. So, or triples out into Noivern on the Toxicroak switching. So, really nice play. As Soulgazer makes a really aggressive play of going out into the Tyrantrum, but at the same time, you weren't going for Draco when you have Bronzong at full HP. So really aggressive, though Hurricane or Confusion might actually bite him. So not wanting to actually get confused and lose his Pokemon, he opts to sack the Drapion right here. Either way, it means that Noivern can't come in if he gets up rocks, and also it means that the Tyrantrum can just safely click Dragon Claw if it wants to, or even Head Smash again, or even Outrage. Outrage is really nice because he doesn't have an Outrage resistance, so he actually opts to sack to save his 11% Noivern and sack the Tyrantrum right there. I think he expected maybe a Head Smash, but I mean, he had no. Soulgazer at that point had no reason to not click Outrage. At the same time, though, if it was just Choice Band, I'm pretty sure it was Choice Scarf Tyrantrum. I'm trying to think how much it would have done versus him. I guess with Bronzong alive, you don't do anything, and at least if you get a Noivern with Taunt, you could potentially Roost if he's Taunt. Roost, no Draco, Flamethrower, Hurricane, so you could damage it for maybe Roserade. But Tyrantrum is locked in Outrage, so it gets off a heavy hit on the Blastoise, so that does allow him to get out his Toxicroak or even his Shaman right now. And at the point, Noivern is so low on HP that he can just throw off a Seed Flare if he wants to. So get some chip damage on Roserade. Any damage on Roserade is smart because, again, Shaman is a giant threat, as Shaman does go for the Technician boosted HP Fire, as he is able to hit the Bronzong. And this does give Bronzong rocks right there. That could be Scarf Shaman or Scarf Roserade, but allows him to get in his Toxicroak, does not Rapid Spin. That means that Noivern will go down, and potentially if this is Z Toxicroak, it picks up KO right now. Blastoise is in range. So Gingy actually scouts for the Z move and decides to sack his Noivern right there, as Soulgazer does go for the Acid Downpour. It was still his best possible play because it did force the sack on Noivern, and what he can do right now is just go for the Sucker Punch, get Roserade in range of Shaman's Air Slash if he wants to. as he does reveal the air slash right there. And now it just comes down to, does Seed Flare hit? I don't know if Blastoise would have taken 2 air slashes. I don't really feel like calculating if Blastoise would have taken 2 air slashes, but Blastoise goes for Dark Pulse, and if Blastoise does have Ice Beam, it could knock out Shaman right here, but comes down to the Seed Flare hitting as Soul Geyser does connect, and he does win 1-0. So a really aggressive game. The Drapion just put in a ridiculous amount of work. Honestly, I'm not sure. Like, I think the only play Gingy could have made versus Drapion to not allow it to do that was going like hard Noivern. Honestly, hard Noivern was the only thing. But obviously, he didn't know that it was Swords Dance. But he lost a lot of that turn, and that was just huge for him. Now, last game we have is Pack versus PokeaimTCG Gamer. I actually love his teams a lot. Passing me some nice ones. This is a UU game, and then like I said, later on today, I will more than likely be coming with more games as well. But Moltres, absolutely love Moltres, especially versus teams like this. If it's PokeaimMD or even Specs. The only drawback of using Specs Moltres, or even Moltres in general, is the fact that you can miss Hurricane. Your best move can miss, but really hits them really, really hard. Altaria checks the Glide score if it is Ice Beam. Also can check Lottie and Infernape. Empoleon checks Florges. Infernape, if it's Scarf, can check a lot of his team too. If he has Gunk Shot, you know, U-turns around versus him and rocks up, he can really pressure him. But let's get into the game. So we see Altaria lead versus Latias. Great lead on Pack's part because this automatically gives him the Mega, which means he can always come in on Dracos or anything he wants to go for, and reveals a Hyper Voice set. So Volcanion comes out, takes absolutely nothing. Pack is going to go out into his Empoleon, as we do see a Specs Flamethrower come out. So he does get a burn, which is really bad because it means Empoleon's recovery is pretty much gone. Though Altaria could be having the Heal Ball, but it also means that if Pack allows Empoleon to go down, the Florius is a little bit more threat defensively, since it kind of, depending on the set, it could actually beat, and depending on the Moltres set and misses, it can actually beat the majority of his team 1v1 outside of Cobalion. So, and this at least allows you to Toxic or Stealth Rock up or whatnot. So, Pack doesn't decide to actually get up Rocks here because it means Volcanion could get another hit off, and decides to go right out into his Moltres right now on the Specs Flamethrower. That still does a lot, man. And this is the exact same amount I did to Empoleon, too, a resistance versus that. But he does throw off a Specs Hurricane at that point. That damage on Moltres is definitely going to matter, though, because, again, I told you about how Infernape has a good speed tier versus his team and outspeeds most of his likely Scarfers. And, unless he's like, you know, Scarf Cobalion. But even then, speed tie. But Infernape threatens him, and any damage on Moltres could potentially lead it for an Infernape late game sweep. But we do see the Synthesis come out on Florius' part. I mean, Hurricane can miss it, also a roll, as he goes hard Infernape right now on the Stealth Rock. So, is able to throw off a U-turn right there, chipping away at Moltres, and this does give him Latias as a switch in. Latias can potentially go for the defog if it wants to, as Pack makes the more defensive play and goes right out into his Empoleon. Again, if Lottie does have defog, it is going to be able to go for it right there. So, we do see a defog come out. No rocks are up as Altaria comes out. This does give him Volcanion. He doesn't want to go hard into Aggron, just in case it's like, I doubt it'd be like an Earthquake mix set. And Volcanion takes every hit anyway and threatens him offensively. So Pack, knowing that Volcanion will more likely come in, goes out into Crocodile to threaten that, as this does allow him to bring in Florius. And Florius was a really smart play. He didn't want to go Glide Score and allow it to get knocked off, and Florius would be able to eat an Earthquake anyway and could throw off a Moonblast or threaten with Moonblast. So he is going to throw off a Wish right now, and this does allow potentially Volcanion to come right back in and just wreak havoc right now. So Pack goes for Toxic as he is able to catch the Volcanion. However, at that point, again, Specs Flamethrower just hurts, man. Specs Flamethrower just hurts. So with Protect and Toxic, he is going to be able to wear down Volcanion, but again, this Mon just puts in so much work versus him. Doubles it to Aggron, really nice play, expecting the Altaria his best switch-in. So this, not only does this give him his Mega, but this also potentially gives him a Heavy Slam or Rocks if he wants to. It makes the more, I think, the smarter play in my opinion, because again, Infernape is really nice in the late game versus him, so, you know, denying every switch-in and just getting any chip damage is really smart. But it goes for Heavy Slam. He more than likely has Aromatherapy on Florius, so he opts to get up Stealth Rock right here as Pack gets in his Moltres before the rocks and throws off a Specs Hurricane. Really nice play, catching the Lottie upon switching, as he can go Altaria on an Ice Beam. So really nice play on Pack's part right there. Covering the Altaria switch and denying it for coming in, covering Crocodile and Psychic as well. Gets a freeze, really unfortunate for sure, though I don't know if TCG Gamer is going to be able to, or would allow Pack a free turn, but that freeze does suck, as he does go out to Empoleon on the next Ice Beam. And we're going to see a really cool move right here. Lottie ends up being a bait set for more than likely a Lowland Muck, as well as Apollyon has a Tectonic Rage, Earthquake, and that's going to be able to knock out the Apollyon right there. So Rock's more than likely here to stay unless it's Defog Altaria and Defog Rotom as well, which is an answer. But he can go route to Infernape, and I told you guys how Infernape just really, he hates switching into it. So goes for close combat. TCG Gamer isn't going to allow the Altaria to potentially thaw right there, and doubles out or goes out to Volcanion, because that would deal with if it did thaw and went for Heal Bell or even Roost or anything like that. I mean, Heal Bell obviously would have made sense. Roost and Defog, not wanting to risk his win con, so goes out to Volcanion, as Pack does expect that, and makes a nice double onto Rotom. If he is Bloom Doom, it does pick up a KO. So opts to go for Defog though, which is even smarter because Moltres is going to be his way of potentially winning. And what he can do is double out into the Florges, as this covers the Bloom Doom play as well as potentially the HP Ice, which he does reveal. So now Gliscor is just straight up wall to the Cobalion, and Pack predicts that he's really in the back, so he's making aggressive plays. Predicts that, goes Moltres, throws off a Specs Fire Blast, which does 96%, as TCG Gamer is going to throw off an Ice Fang. If he did have a Facade, it would put everything in range of almost close combat, but decides to keep his Gliscor alive because it stops the Volt Switch. And also, while Florges does dodge a Fire Blast, it only matters in the sense of HP, or PP rather, but TCG Gamer can just go right out into Volcanion. At that point, Specs Flamethrower picks off every Pokemon on his team, so Rotom's going to come out. Opts to keep it alive because it is a resistance to Moltres, and it forces the Hurricane, because between Aggron and Volcanion, he could take Fire Blast and one Hurricane from each of them. So goes Gliscor as the mid-ground play, as he is able to go for Ice Fang, and Rotom just goes for the Leaf Storm, trying to cover a potential HP Ice switch as well. And this gives him Infernape, and Infernape can just go right for close combat and pick off another Mon. So that's going to go down. Moltres is going to come out. He's going to go Aggron on the more likely Hurricane, as Aggron eats that not well at all, and he does hit 2 Hurricanes, so this is getting pretty close. So Infernape is going to come out. If Infernape has Thunder Punch, Stone Edge, or Gunk Shot, it would go for it here, unless it wants to predict Cobalion and go for close combat. But he throws off a Thunder Punch, as what he's going to do is actually scout for the all-out pummeling right now, as Volcanion comes in on the close combat. This was a good double either way, because close combat was his best play, or all-out pummeling if he had it. And if he does go for the all-out pummeling, then Infernape guarantee lives a hit and can 2-hit or it can do damage with 2-KO him at that point with the Thunder Punch, and then win the game anyway. But by him getting defense drops right here, and also the fact that it's Volcanion, he cannot switch, and at that point, Infernape can just come out, goes for Thunder Punch. I mean, another play he could have made was also close combat there, if he predicted him to switch out to Moltres, but it would have been a choke if he stayed in with Cobalion and went off that play. But it comes down to if it is all-out pummeling Cobalion, I believe. Because Cobalion does live the hit, and Infernape does live a close combat from full, and we do not see the all-out pummeling. Maybe he was potentially stealing MZ, and Infernape able just to win that game with the Thunder Punch at the end. So that was a really solid game, and you guys saw how much work Infernape put in just because of its speed to versus team, and the Lottie was really nice as well. So I do hope you guys all enjoyed. I'll definitely be coming later, hopefully either today or later tomorrow, with some more games. I believe it's currently 6-4 for the Wolfpack versus the Raiders, and the Wolfpack just needs to win one more game to win, but we'll see what ends up happening. So thank you for watching. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Feel free to pick up the Drop Draco socks. Like I said, only 18 hours left. Link is down below. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye, friends.